Today, Precarious plays
Deus Ex, Mankind Divided. Dope, right? Though, I kind of wish that Jensen had a zero energy sunglass mode
Yeah.
that actually muted the effect of some of the lights.
So you could dim,
Yeah.
have a little dimmer switch. What are those shades for anyways, Jensen?
Well, maybe this is already shaded.
Maybe.
Okay. Is there anybody in there? Doesn't look like it.
You know, a while ago, I gave up on trying to acquire more languages
Yeah.
because I felt I had the ones I had well enough for anything I might want to do, practically speaking. However, every time I see a sign in any language that I can't read,
It is vexing, isn't it?
it itches.
Mm.
And I'm like, I could learn enough. I could learn enough to, you know, I mean, even just understanding a language poorly is fantastic. You
But
know?
I accidentally mulched my battle rifle, which I don't think I fired it yet, but if I ever encounter a lone robot that isn't out on the streets, I'll probably shoot it.
Mm-hmm. But every time I see a sign I can't read, I'm like, how hard would it be? They say, and I've never put this to the test, okay?
Yeah.
But they say that once you have more than one language, it's easier to learn additional languages because you're already used to that shift in, like, I don't know. I'm gonna date myself here, but my family, we used to call it changing cassettes.
Yeah. What's a cassette?
Exactly. So, changing tracks. Let's say that. It's like,
granted.
and after speaking a certain language, after speaking one language for a certain amount of time, it occasionally your brain gets kind of stuck in that zone, and then when you go back to the other, you have to readjust. It's interesting because you're ordering your thoughts a little bit differently. And so sometimes when we'd come back from trips, we'd talk funny, catch ourselves, and be like, oh, I have the wrong cassette in. Hang on.
So it looks like tracking is presently disabled.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet that means that they're trying to let me get familiar with the environment, and then I bet foes are only going to show up on my way out. Maybe that's what they're doing. Okay, so it looks like I can get backstage from the stage proper. There are stairwells on the side that go all the way up. And then I can go down. Okay. I think I've got it. Briefly talking about language, every time I think about learning a new one,
Yeah.
I honestly think, like, there's still so much more English to learn.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, English has most of the words because it's a couple languages, at least, kind of smashed together. And then we're constantly making up words. But yeah, there's a lot of English available.
MMOs.
Yeah.
So whenever I play an MMO, I mentioned previously that they are very technically interesting. And I mean that, like, from an engineering perspective, not like Well, they're technically interesting, but then you get in there with all the people and then it's bad. Although maybe.
Although maybe you mean that, but not in this instance.
And... But is that a stripper pole?
Yeah, this is a private booth. Look, there's champagne. What do you think they're doing up in here?
Yeah, but you think that they've
All
got...
of the private boxes have the stripper pole. Look, what district are we in?
Okay, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that.
It's just the least you'd expect in a joint like this.
Okay, now I'm in the secret zone.
Okay,
This is where I want to be.
so MMOs.
MMOs.
Yeah.
So they are technically impressive, and I think that they are, in my mind, tied in a different way, but they are tied with tabletop role-playing games for recreating a world.
Yes.
It's an experience that can get very close to life in a lot of ways that a single player game can't.
Yes.
And there is this... It's fascinating to have a shared moment with another person and recognize, like, oh, that was like a tiny and ultimately trivial, but like that was like a tiny little heroism or a tiny little bit of villainy, or it was a real shared experience. So let me tell you one of my favorite MMO stories. I'm gonna see if I can get through it and also like not splatter myself against the ground or I get spotted. It's a big ask and a lot on my plate. Big ask, I meant to say, not big ass. I think I might have slurred my word. All right, so I was playing World of Warcraft and I had been told by one of my asshole friends, just gonna say that straight out. I'd been told by an asshole to go to a particular location to meet them. And this asshole, they were an asshole. Have I made that clear yet?
Yeah.
They didn't give me like any indication of how. They basically just were so obsessed with their own shit that they never thought like, oh wait, this person might be new and might not know what I mean or how to do this like the easy way. That's a I could come back to that talking about MMOs more generally, but I'm not going to right now for the purposes of this story. So I was playing World of Warcraft and I started as a night elf, and you start on, I think it's Teldrassil. You start in an isolated giant tree island thingy.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that there were other methods of traveling to the Human Alliance capital. I want to say... I don't remember anymore. That's probably a good sign if it's starting to fade from memory. But the Human Alliance... Human/Alliance capital, I was told to go there, and I went there on like overland, like, and by sea. I took a boat.
Yeah.
I took a boat, and then I found out. Okay, so hold on, wait. I'm just gonna camp right here for a second so I can get the story out quickly. I started on an island. I took a boat. It took me to a high level, sort of in-between zone. Because I was a druid, I could turn into cat form and then go invisible. So I started sneaking my way through this bog filled with horrible monsters that could kill me in like 2 hits. Got turned around, went the wrong direction, found this beautiful like rolling zone of hills and I think like upright marble spires or something. It's vague, but I remember being very, very impressed with it. Then figured out I needed to go to the south. Stopped to talk to a fucking traveler Like there was a player that was much higher level and saw me sneaking and was like,
What are you doing?
what are you doing? And I told him, I was like, I'm trying to go to the capital. But like I had like a wheat hanging out of my mouth.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get to the capital, go to the big city. And they gave me directions not to the human capital. They were like, oh, well, no, go to the dwarven capital, which is here. And they pointed it out to me on the map. And then you can take a tram from the dwarven city to the human city. And I remember there was a real sense of accomplishment and relief as I started up the snowy trail and walked into Ironforge. I think it was
that it's if that's not the name it should be. I'm pretty sure it was Ironforge.
But coming in from the cold into this like quietly sort of like ting-tinging dwarven forge with all of these lava fonts.
Yeah.
You know, all of this lava streaming down everywhere. It was really impactful. And then taking the tram to get to the human place. Lion's Gate, Lion something, Pride Lion, Lion's Pride, Gray Lion's Pride is probably the name.
Okay.
So it started because of poor onboarding. It started because an asshole was being an asshole.
But you got a proper adventure out of that.
I got a fucking adventure.
That's like an episode of Adventure Time.
Yeah, it had structure.
You met a traveler.
There was a wise magic person that gave me advice in my hour of need.
It's like, hey man, where are you going? I don't know. I'm a small invisible cat.
It was great. And as soon as I got there, that friend, damn it, Jensen.
They will pay triple what we agreed. That is good for business.
But at what cost?
This is not a fucking discussion!
We can still limit the damage. We do not know what these people have planned for London. It could be...
I decide how the Valley do business, not you.
But this orchid, you want to deliver to the Safe Harbor Convention before it even begins.
Do you have shit in your ears as well as between them? Get the fuck out of my office! Now!
Better duck.
Miller, Archenko is targeting the Safe Harbor Convention in London.
Jesus, there'll be hundreds of people there.
How fast can we move on this?
I'll warn London and get Mac working on a mobilization plan for them. You go home. We'll contact you there.
Alex, they are hitting London. The Diwali agreed to smuggle weapons and the Orchid into Apex Center.
Fuck, man, they want to take out Brown. He's their real target. I've been digging into him.
Get to my apartment. Explain it to me there.
So now our objective is to just leave. But...
What did this friend do when you got there?
Right. I was met with exasperation and no small amount of criticism.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this like eye rolling.
I've been waiting for you for hours.
Well, not even necessarily that. No, they were not a good friend. They weren't actually waiting on me. They just, like teleported back or whatever whenever I showed up. No, just that kind of like superior, I'm comfortable in my knowledge. Why the fuck did you do it that way? Kind of.
Why didn't you telepathically know all of the things that I know from experience playing already?
Yeah. It was like, I feel like you might be able to do something if you go in and confront this person. But I think I'm gonna leave it.
Yeah, that room's full of snakes and mouths.
So, oh, no, wait, I'm remembering something. I do think I want to go in there because I think that you can open a shortcut out of this place. But I think that might be too much for the time we have left today.
Yeah.
So let me just wrap up behind the safety crate. Here, I always try to get a nice angle whenever we linger like this. Perfect.
Oh, yeah.
No, hold on.
Dynamic. What a composition. There you go.
Yeah, there's
That's
some
not bad. There's some movement perspective.
twinkling off in the distance. I am not friends with that person anymore because eventually, after playing other games with them where they were not, like, MMOs brought out the worst in that person, but eventually I started to see that just sort of leak into their behavior everywhere, just outside of games, any game, you know? But it was, if I stopped right there, it'd be like a fun little story, you know, of adventure and taking boats. I took a boat
Taking
and
boats.
a tram and an invisible cat to get to my goal. But the punchline, what turns this into a fucking mockery, a joke, is this person is like, or you could have just done this and then took me to this little side room and there's just a teleporter. You can just get in a portal. And I started 120 feet I ended 120 feet from where I started, because where you get on the boat is not that far from this sort of like temple.
Where the teleporter is.
Yeah, where the portal that just takes you to Grey Skull Keep. Fucking, what is the name of that place?
Hemsworth.
Yeah, it just takes you to Hemsworth's helm of Hemsworth. Helmsworth. And that sort of, surprisingly, this story wound up informing a lot of why and how I play MMOs, because a lot of my time is actually spent whenever I'm playing this game to recreate as much of the feeling of that experience as possible. So, for example, right now I am, against my better judgment, I've involved myself with a Final Fantasy XIV free company. A lot of new people are coming in and are like people that are just new to the game. New to the game and the free company. I myself am new to the free company, but I'm not new to the game. I've played it for an embarrassing amount of time. But I'll drop whatever I'm doing, and I'll go run Sestasha with any Copperbell Mines and any of the sub 30 dungeons. I will drop what I'm doing and I will go with a new person to try to ensure that they have. I mean, honestly, sometimes it doesn't even feel like I'm doing something good, like morally good. I think it might be morally irresponsible, but I can't help myself. But I try to walk these people through, and
without giving very much away, and just be there to take care of them if anything goes really sideways.
Yeah, I'm always a tank or a healer, so I'm always either healing them or pulling enemies away from them and letting them explore the space in a way that basically no one will ever let them any other time they play that game. It's a little sad, but I've debated back and forth, and I've ultimately come down on the side of, like, I should just do what I can for these people while I'm here and shield them from the harsh truth of MMOs, which is, it's just self-involved people by and large that are, they've gotten on a treadmill. I know, I'm gonna skip over to the metaphor I've developed this most recent run-in with MMO culture. It's like a hot dog eating contest. Flavor doesn't matter, texture doesn't matter. You just gotta shove more dogs into your mouth. Just gotta hide the dogs out of sight, and that's all that the majority of players care about. Or at least like the ones that make it to high levels. I think that one of the problems is that I think that the people that I would want to play with most leave early. That is what I do. Usually I get I'll get to the cap and then it's time to raid and I'm like, nope, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do that. Before we go, I'm gonna tell you what I want. What I want is the Debauchery Tea Party from Log Horizon.
Yes.
That is the guild that I want to be in. It's like a small number of people that get like way into it and are always playing with one another and are just doing stuff to like prove that they can, to not to other people, just to themselves.
Yeah.
But I think that they had like a dozen people in that. I don't even know if it was like an official guild in the fiction.
No, I don't think it was. It was just a group of people who hung out, like they didn't register the guild.
And that is what I would want. But I couldn't imagine finding, even padding out like an 8-person group or the full parties in Final Fantasy 14.
Maybe one day.
No, not maybe
Okay,
one day.
well.
That is what keeps me coming back to these fucking shit shows, these MMOs, and they always wind up being the same socially.
Fine. You're never gonna get that.
Thank you. God,
never
finally someone just says it.
Gonna get that, but it's good to know what you want and what you deserve.
Maybe the process of getting to the level cap is just too transformative, you know? Maybe you don't get to that point and maintain that desire for adventure, for the unknown.